Yeah, it's Sean Barker, player performance coach. So simply put, I work with the lads on an individual basis. We have lead coach that takes the team and looks at the group in general. My job is to look at the individual to try and work out their strengths and weaknesses, where we can spend more time, additional focus on, and trying to create I suppose the environment where they make the most of their ability and hopefully step up into a first team and professional environment.
So I saw today at the training you were able to use St George's Park. How much of a bonus is that being able to use a facility like that?
Well, it's wonderful. It's a great place to train every day. It's something that is a big pull for the academy. The lads probably forget at times, but they're extremely fortunate to go and train every single day at St George's Park. Great facilities, the pitches are wonderful. The only downside is sometimes they can get a little bit kind of complacent when they play on a pitch that isn't quite as perfect as SGP. But Burton Albion's not the biggest club, but to have the facilities, have the ability to go up and train at St George's Park every day is something very special.
So since you've sort of been at Burton, how many players have made the step up to the first team or perhaps got themselves moved to another professional club?
Well, that's a tough question. Well, we've had continually, we tend to have 2 or 3 players moving up from the academy into a professional environment. From that point, it's very difficult to then, after a first year pro, to do well enough to bump up into a first team. But over the last 3 or 4 years I've been here, there's been 2 or 3 players that have progressed to a first team environment. An example of a player that maybe didn't go in the first team for us, Teddy Sharman Lowe, who's gone to Chelsea and was in the 19s England team that obviously won the Euros just over a week ago. You have those players that have a maybe slightly different pathway. He'll go to a big club and he's got to experience maybe 21s and 23s before he gets his first team kind of debut. But and then going up from us last year was Charlie Williams and Ben Radcliffe and Cuba. Charlie and Ben played in the first team friendly the other day, and hopefully they can kick on and get into that first team environment. But it is difficult. Doesn't matter what your pathway looks like. Doesn't matter how much ability you've got. It's very difficult to get into a first team environment and not only get to that position but also to sustain that and to make sure you make an impression at 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned it is very difficult to get to that first team stage. The numbers is obviously something like 99% will not make it. How do you approach these sort of things with the players? Do you tell them that statistically you're not going to make it, or do you try and encourage them much you can? How do you just manage expectations so not everyone thinks they're going to be playing for Champions League?
Well, we go out of the way to make sure that they understand how difficult it's going to be, how important college and their education is as a scholar. They know themselves, sometimes they might need that little reminder or that little push. Only a very few, a very select few go and play professional football. So you're competing with every lad that's in that scholarship with you, every lad that's in that PDP group, and not only that, you're competing with the first team players that you're in and around as a first year pro. So it's extremely difficult. You have to understand the importance of the athleticism, how much hard work needs to go into the gym. You have to be adaptable to working playing different situations, so you have to give yourself I think if you come into a scholarship, if you come into academy, effort and application is above all. You're in the club, you're in the academy because you have talent. Now what gets you to the next level is the application, the effort to do more than everyone else, the desire not to give up, the resilience to get through the tough times. Ultimately that kind of character, those kind of qualities and mental toughness will go a long way.
If you were to have a player who perhaps was being slightly sidetracked, they could into their football, maybe just letting their college work start slack off, what sort of keeps them in check? How do you, like Tony like Amy, sort of embarrass them, just give them a little nudge and say, keep your head down, you're going this way? What sort of measures?
Well, I think consistency with how we approach them and expectations for rules and regulations. First and foremost. They're 16, 17, 18 years old, they're still kids. They're still learning about themselves. They're still learning what life is and how they can navigate their journey. Having reminders of that is important. I think you have to be tough at times. You have to push them beyond where they think they can get. You have to kind of almost push them outside that comfort zone. And at times, some of these boys won't like us. And as a coach, you have to accept that. You have to be willing to sit with lack of times when they're tired and grumpy and find out being consistent with them. They haven't got leeway. They have to do everything they possibly can because ultimately it's their career that we're hoping and trying to push them forward to have a career in the game.
So I think for me the majority of press and stories about academies is usually focused on the release process, and they usually tend to focus on these sort of horrible stories about kid getting released and then not having the support afterwards, maybe going off the rails for in the game. At Burton, what do you do to the 99% of players who don't make it? And football in general, what change do you see, and is enough being done to support these players?
Well, we have G, who's player care in the academy, legend of the club. He's got his flag behind us, which I'm sure is actually to put the camera on directly so you can see. He's player care in the academy. His role and responsibility is to support the lads, to understand that it's a tough life, it's a tough career, and you need support. I think over the last 5 years especially, the mental health side of the game has come out, and that's a great thing, that people are a little bit more aware that just because you play football, whether it be 16, 17, 18 year old as a scholar, or even in a first team environment where on the outside you look at these players and think they have everything, but the human beings that have to deal with huge amounts of pressure and expectation. So the fact that it's come a little bit more to light, the fact that we've seen more people kind of willing to open up and ask for help and advice, we try and create a relationship while we're here, so we get to know the lads as well as possible. We get to understand them at a more honest level. We always make sure that we catch up with those boys that are released, try and help support them into their next step, whether that be in education, whether it be still in football. And if you've created a good relationship and you've got a bond with these players, they should be able to pick up the phone and be able to talk to you, which does happen here. And at the same time, we do that as well. We make sure we touch base, see how they're getting on, see if they need any help with anything. And that's we have scholars for 2 years, 16 to 18, but that's not where your job stops. Hopefully that continues and you've built that relationship so that moving on in the future you have mutual respect, mutual care for each other, that whatever help that they need, whatever support they need, we can be there for them.
How long have you been involved in sort of youth football and football in general?
So I was a scholar at Rotherham at 16, so I'm 40 this year, so a long time. I signed pro as an 18-year-old at Rotherham, retired at 36, I think. At that point I came straight into the academy. So I finished my career here at Burton just the last couple of years, and it was a natural progression. I'm quite honest to say that I wasn't looking to get into academy football, I wasn't looking to continue in football, but that transition of being around a football club, gaining respect and having good friends and people involved in football, I suppose it was natural that I do go into it. But what Dan Robinson allowed me to do here in the academy is to build a role that would suit me and suit the players around me, and that's where the player performance comes into. I go through clips with them individually, I set up their IAPs, their individual action plans, work them more of a, I suppose, a holistic approach which keeps these lads. But one has his experience of doing it, going through it, having some tough times in football, and I think as a young player, seeing that performance side, seeing a player that's been through some tough times in the game, as well as a good time, I think they can appreciate that probably a little bit more and respect that. And obviously there's always testing times. That's just working with kids and probably working with me, but it's part of the process, and love what I do, and hopefully the lads appreciate what I do as well.
Final question. We're now dealing, with 16 to 18.
I appreciate this, Mark.
signed for 16. What's the difference, I guess, in just, I guess, yeah, care, a relationship with coaches between when you were a 16-year-old and pro to now?
Huge difference. Vast kind of expanse between what I kind of went through compared to what they're going through. Doesn't mean it's any less tough. It's just a different environment. I was very fortunate that my coach was probably more forward thinking, very caring. It's Alan Neil who works with Chris Wilder for many years. I got on really well with him, and I was from Nottingham and moved to Rotherham, so I had to experience being out in different families. So I lived in Diggs, which was very difficult for me because I was a proper family boy and lived with mum and dad and had a big family, so I was not keen to move away. So there's lots of things that the boys don't have to do now, which is great in some ways. There's also some things that maybe they don't have to
Feel
do.
free to mix in.
Feel
If you're only going to
is
take
missing as well.
I don't know.
I didn't spend the same amount of time around the first team.
They'll be
Again,
dropping
I
in and
would have
out.
done boots every day. I would have come and done jobs and make sure that the first team are kind of looked after. That expectation isn't there now with the younger footballers, and in some ways, there's some really positive things from it, but also there's some things that take away maybe having to step up a little bit earlier and having that hierarchy of understanding that you look after a senior pro and respect that senior pro. But it's vast majority has been a plus. The big differences, but ultimately it's the same aim, and that's to become a professional footballer, and that's not a very easy task at all.
I said it was going to be the last question, but boot cleaning. Because I hear about this all the time from sort of older generations.
Yeah.
How important was boot cleaning to character building?
Huge. I can't believe it's still not in the game. So you used to be assigned to a pro, or I say assigned as a young player. You try and find the pro that will pay you the most at Christmas, and they give you a little treat at Christmas for looking after their boots every single day. You had to wash, clean, dry, and buffer boots and deliver them to the pros. Now, one thing you used to get is the tougher ones would not be happy with anything. So you spent more time, more care, more consideration with the boots every single day. You wanted a senior pro to be impressed with what you did. You wanted that kind of interaction, and every single day as a young scholar, 16-year-old, I'd be in a first team dressing room, delivering boots, hoping I'd done well enough that they would respect the work I'd done. That's part of character building. It's part of, again, hierarchy and respecting elders and senior players, and also taking care of your boots. You know, it's a big thing. Boots now are just, as the young, kind of this new generation, everything's instant and everything's disposable. We live in a world where boots can be bought for 300 quid one day, and then 2 weeks down the line they don't want them, so they buy a new pair. I can't get my head around that. Mine lasted the season, I took care of them, and I buy one pair, and that's, I suppose, part of the change in life and how things are different now these days. But it is a big miss, I think, in the scholarship 2 years.
How popular would it be if tomorrow you came in with these boys and said, we're bringing back boot cleaning? Do you think it would go down well with them?
Well, the first team boys have someone who cleans the boots, so they're not missing out.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the scholars wouldn't be too pleased because we're finding another job for them. But if there wasn't boot cleaning, I 100% I would advocate that. I'd say, look, it'd be great for the boys. The pros, they want to take their boots off. They want to put their feet up and rest. If they had someone doing them, which they do here, but yeah, I think it's a big miss. But football changes. I'm now sound like an old man compared to the young boy that I still think I am. But there's different experiences and there's different times and there's different types of scholarships, and just mine 20, 25 years ago is different to how it is now.